My future mother-in-law doesn't want her son to marry me because I am defective. Posted by you/Mia. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact term for my condition. Basically, I have the correct parts, but none of them happen to work. My uterus cannot generate lining, so I can never get pregnant. On the bright side, I have never had a period in my life. I'm 32. My boyfriend's mother found us out, I don't know how. She may have overheard a family member talking about it. My family knows about it, as do several of his family members that I have told. When she found out and confronted me about it, she forbade her son from marrying me because I couldn't provide him with children. Needless to say, my boyfriend and I have discussed it, and while a bit disappointed, we are fine with it, me being unable to conceive. She is now telling all her family members not to attend our future wedding because she doesn't want her son marrying someone defective who can't give him what she thinks he wants or needs. If she can come around and change her mind on this, that would be great, but as it stands now, I don't want her at the wedding, for fear she might do or say something to ruin the event. My boyfriend says that while he loves his mother, he is torn about whether to invite her or not. We may just have a quick civil ceremony, inviting only a few friends and relatives, and tell her afterward. However, she doesn't even want to come over when we invite her for dinner. I'm not sure what to do. I'm getting tired of her calling me defective to everyone else. His father is okay with it, and his aunts and uncles are mostly understanding. We've talked about adoption in the future, but she is also against that because it is not his blood and wouldn't really be her grandchild. Just ranting here, thanks for reading. Update 2 days later. I received 2 text messages today before tonight's confrontation, one good, one bad. The good one was from my future father-in-law, who said he's appalled by his wife's actions, that he loves me like the daughter he never had, and that he thinks his son is fortunate to have found me. The second was from his aunt, who essentially said the same thing but added that her sister, my future mother-in-law, spoke to her about the whole situation, asked her not to attend the wedding, and then made a comment about why I even have breasts since it's not like I'm going to use them for anything. I am so nervous about tonight. My boyfriend has asked me not to come because he thinks my being there will make things worse, so after work, I'm going to stay home, order a pizza, curl up on the couch, and watch TV while petting the cat. That last part is not a euphemism. I get a lot of comfort from playing with and petting my cat. Second update 2 days later. If you read my previous post on the matter, I can't have children. My soon-to-be mother-in-law didn't like that and did everything she could to sabotage our future wedding, telling people not to attend and calling me defective. My future, no longer, husband and his father were supposed to sit down with her on Tuesday night to try to talk sense into her. Well, she won. I don't know what happened or what was said, but my boyfriend came home, and we got into a big fight. Despite what we had discussed before, he now said that he wanted kids, and if I couldn't provide them, the wedding was off. I basically said, "That sounds like your mother, not you," and he replied, "I can speak for myself." It escalated into a shouting match, and I quickly packed a bag and went to my parents' house for the evening. I called in sick to work the next day and just stared at the ceiling. We first met when I was 9, 23 years ago. Our relationship grew from friendship to something romantic. We dated through high school, went to college together, and moved in together after graduation. I've never dated or been with anyone else, and as far as I know, neither has he. We waited so long to get married because it wasn't important to us as long as we were together. That changed when my dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he expressed his wish to walk me down the aisle. I'm his only daughter, before he became too ill to do so. On Monday, I'll be giving 2 months' notice at work to give them time to find and train my replacement, then I'll move back to Germany. I didn't mention before that my dad is German and my mom is American. They originally met when she went there for work. I was born there and lived there during my early years. I still have friends and family there. My friend, whom I mentioned before and who had volunteered to be a surrogate, has offered to let me stay in her spare room with her family until I get settled on my own. I'm sorry, no happy ending here. The evil mother-in-law won and got me out of her son's life. Technically, she got me out of the country. I know I could move elsewhere in town or even in the state, but I don't want to be alone here. There are too many memories, and I have a strong support network, friends and family, overseas, so that's where I'm going. I've been picked on so many times for so many things over the years, from my height to my accent when I first moved here, which is gone now. I sound like any other Midwestern girl, to other things, but this one hurts the most. I was able to handle the other situations by telling myself, that's who I am. If they don't like it, that's their problem. I'm sure in a few years, I'll feel that way about this situation too, but it's too soon right now. Thank you for reading and for your kind words of support. I'm sorry if this seems incoherent, I'm just ranting and crying, so it's hard to keep a decent train of thought. Third update same day. First of all, thank you all for your support and kind comments. 2 weird things happened today, one of which I'm extremely embarrassed about, and the other I thought was just strange. First, during my lunch hour, I had to run to the grocery store to pick up some things for my mom for dinner tonight. At the grocery store, who should I happen to run into but she who once could have been my mother-in-law. I don't know what to call her, so I'll just refer to her as Barbie. As I was walking down an aisle, Barbie suddenly appeared at the other end. We made brief eye contact before she immediately turned and bolted out of there. I guess she had nothing to say. The second thing was that my dad came with me to the house to help me pack up my things. He's already agreed to act as my representative when the house is sold to ensure I get my fair share. While we were there, he stood in the corner, glaring at my ex the whole time. Then my ex had this brilliant idea to ask for one last time right in front of my father. I guess I kind of snapped. I grabbed my sweater, you can guess what part of me was right under it, and said, "You are never going to see these, much less touch them, play with them, or anything else." He turned red and walked out the door. After he left, my dad went from giving my ex a "you hurt my daughter, you're lucky to be alive" look to bursting out in laughter once the door closed. He then said, "I can't believe you just did that," to which I replied, "Neither can I." We then went home for dinner with my mom. Halfway through, my mom asked, "What does Vanessa's husband do again?" Vanessa is the girl I'm moving in with in Germany. I just lost it. It was a perfectly innocent question, but I let it all out in big, braying sobs. After a while, my dad came over and carried me upstairs to bed, just like he used to do when I was 5. That's where I'm typing this now on my laptop. I told him to let Mom know that she did nothing wrong, I just needed to let it all out, and unfortunately for her, that was the moment. A lady at work has already volunteered to take my cat, and my dad will store things like my tennis trophies, yearbooks, and photos upstairs at his house. He said that even though I may not want those photos now, perhaps in 5 years or so, I'll want them, so he's going to keep them until I'm ready to take them back. Thanks again for all your kind words and support. Fourth update 1 day later. Well, I gave notice at work today, experienced some more weirdness, and am now lying in bed with my laptop. First, while at lunch today, a dozen roses arrived with a note that simply said, "I'm sorry." No more, no less, but I recognized the handwriting. I asked my coworker if she would like them to give to her little daughter at home, and when she said, "No, I know why you got them, and I don't feel right taking them," into the trash they went with the note. I was going to wait until Monday to give notice, but the gossip factory had been running full-time over the last couple of days. So, I went and told my boss that I'm leaving, but I'll stay to help train a replacement. My last day is, ironically, Valentine's Day. What the hell, I've got nothing else to do that day. I'll spend 2 weeks after that here saying goodbye to people, going to a few of my favorite places in town, and then, on February 29th, my parents are going to drive me to Chicago, about 4 hours away. I leave for Munich on March 1st. My friend Vanessa lives in Munich, so I'll stay at her place for a few days while I try to figure out where to go and what to do. My hometown is about a 2.5-hour drive away, and I still have family there, so I'll decide between now and then where to base myself. It's a small town, maybe about 40,000, I'm not sure of the exact number, but it does have a castle and a large tin soldier museum. I don't know if I'll stay in Munich, more opportunities, head up there and try to find something, or go somewhere else in Germany, like Hamburg or Berlin. I also went to the realtor who's selling the house and had to sign a bunch of papers giving my father authority to make any decisions regarding the sale. The lady said, "No problem, I have a lot of experience with divorcing couples," and all I thought was, I was never even married. I came home, and we had dinner. Then my mother and I sat down, and she braided my hair. It has always been our thing to do this for mommy-daughter time. We did it for the big, it's not just for peeing talk. When I was first diagnosed with my condition, before the state tennis tournament, when I went away to college, basically, big moments. I think this counts as one of those. Then my ex's best friend called, said he heard what happened, said it was pretty crappy, he used stronger language, but there might be children reading this, and wanted me to come over for an evening with his family before I left. I was more friends with his wife than him, but I'll go anyway. Again, I can't thank this community enough for their support and kind words. Sorry if I branch into irrelevant topics at times, but I just type as I think, and this is all going faster than I thought. Last week, I thought I might have to start planning for a wedding, and now, I'm planning on leaving the country and starting my life over. My mother also suggested we go to the zoo in Chicago on my last day in America. I went there when we first moved to America, and she thinks it would make the perfect bookend to my whole 23-year stay in America. It seems like just yesterday when we moved into a new house, and a nice boy and his mother came over, brought us a basket of cookies, and welcomed us to the neighborhood while I was out front keeping my dog away from the movers. Times, and people, sure do change. Fifth update 6 days later. Warning, there is an act of violence in this post, and I'm still shaken by it. No, the main incident wasn't directed at me, depending on how you define violence. My ex came over to my parents' house tonight and said he wanted to talk. I have a good idea of what he hoped would happen, but it definitely didn't. We had a brief conversation in which he said he was sorry, and I told him I was moving back home to Germany soon. He started to tear up, and so did I. I take responsibility for giving him the opening that led to what happened next. We were both crying, and we started hugging. While we were hugging, I didn't notice one of his hands moving down my back to my rear until he got a good handful and squeezed it. As soon as it registered in my brain what he was doing, I stepped back and unleashed a slap. I slapped him across the face with such force that my hand still stings. He staggered back, and I pointed to the door, yelling, "Get out." Though I may have added some stronger language. He looked shocked, hung his head, and walked out the door. After I heard him get in his car, start it, and drive off, I broke down in tears. My father, who had been waiting and listening outside the room the entire time. He later explained he was standing by in case I needed backup, came into the room to find me crying. He gave me a big hug, and my mother came downstairs and fixed us all something to drink. A few minutes later, my phone rang. According to caller ID, it was Barbie, my ex's mother and the person who started all of this. I didn't hear her side of the conversation, so what I know comes from what my father told me later. She essentially threatened to call the cops on me for assaulting her son. My father calmly responded that it was justifiable self-defense since my ex had attacked me first, the rear grab, and that we had cameras to prove everything to the police if needed. We don't, but she didn't need to know that. She hung up, and I haven't seen a cop since, so I don't know if she was bluffing or if my dad's threat scared her off. I'll admit that I missed the physical side of my relationship with my ex. He was my first and only for many things: first date, first kiss, first intimate partner, and so on. But none of that outweighs the hurt he and his mother have caused me. I would rather remain celibate for life than let him touch me again. I shouldn't have let him hug me in the first place, but it was a moment of weakness. I know better now and won't let it happen again. Thank you again for reading and for your kind words of support. I didn't think I'd be updating again after my last post, but here we are. Hopefully, unless it's in response to something written here or a message, you won't hear another update from me until I'm in Germany and far away from this mess. It's late, and I'm going to bed now. 6th update 26 days later. 1 mystery solved. Throughout this whole ordeal, there have been 2 mysterious things I had no answer for. 1, why he suddenly changed his mind, and 2, how Barbie, his mother, found out. It wasn't common knowledge, nor did I tell her. I had my suspicions as to how, and yesterday, they were confirmed. I was downtown on my lunch break. I've been training the new girl who's replacing me. She seems really nice and capable. I would have liked to work with her if the circumstances were different. During lunch, I ran into Steve, Jack's friend and neighbor, whom he's known since he was 3. Steve said he had heard about us, mentioned it was a shame that we had broken up, and asked if it had anything to do with my infertility. Now, I had not told Steve. He wasn't a close enough friend to confide in, so I asked what he knew about my infertility. He then told me the whole story. This is from his point of view, and I'm only relaying what he said, so it may not be 100% accurate. Steve and Jack, my ex, were working on Steve's car. I don't know what kind, only that it's from the 60s. Before this, Jack and I had a very informal proposal. What do you want on your toast? It looks like it's gonna rain today. Should we get married? So, Jack went to his parents' house because he wanted an old heirloom ring that had been in his family for centuries to make a formal proposal. He asked his mom where the ring was and why he wanted it. She ran upstairs crying with glee to find it. When she came back down with it, she was crying and said it would be nice to have a pitter-patter of tiny feet around the house. She asked if I was currently pregnant. I guess it seemed odd to her that we were getting married after 16 years of dating and living together, so she assumed he had knocked me up, prompting the proposal after so many years. Jack replied that we already had a pitter-patter of tiny feet in Babette, my cat. She said, "No, I mean a baby, silly." Jack then responded, "Mia can't have babies," and proceeded to tell her my whole medical situation. She said something like, "This isn't going to happen," went back upstairs, returned the ring, and slammed the door. The next day, she forbade me from marrying him, started calling me defective, and kicked off this whole story. After telling me this, Steve said that, yes, this was one factor in our breakup. He added, "What a shame. You two made a great couple," and mentioned that Jack was probably devastated. I then said goodbye and went on to lunch. When I got home later that day, I went to my room and cried into my pillow until my father came up to get me for dinner. I had always suspected that Jack told her somehow. While it's not a big state secret, it's not something I have ever felt comfortable sharing. Now that I'm telling this story on this site, I have no problem admitting, my parts don't work, to complete strangers. It's been comforting. Thank you all for your support. 7th update 3 months later. 2-part update. We'll start with the good news first. I left America on March 1st and flew to Munich. I sat next to an elderly lady who was terrified of flying, but she was traveling to visit her son and his family. I don't remember what he did or why he was in Germany. For the 10 or so hours we were in the air, she held my arm in a death grip. Anytime we hit an air pocket or experienced slight turbulence, it was a relatively smooth flight with just a few bumps. She gripped even tighter. Later, I discovered I had a bruise, but fortunately, her nails didn't dig in. After deplaning and going through customs, she reunited with her son and his family. This all happened before the quarantine and isolation began in earnest, so there wasn't much of a problem at that time. Then the fun started with the quarantine. I've spent most of my time at my friend's house, tutoring her kids in English and generally helping out around the house. I had 3 interviews scheduled before I arrived, but all of them were cancelled. My uncle, who lives in Kulmbach, has offered to drive the 3 hours down to pick me up and take me back there, but I haven't decided yet. Now, the bad news, apparently, Jack, my ex, has been having a hard time with all this. Normally, when I and my family flew back to Germany in the past, we would fly out of Cedar Rapids, connect through Chicago or Minneapolis, and then fly to Germany. Apparently, from what a friend told me, Jack drove out to the Cedar Rapids airport, not knowing that we had driven up to Chicago and that I flew directly from there. When I didn't show up, he went home and assumed he'd gotten the time or date wrong. He sent a few letters to my house. I had my mother open one and read it to me over the phone, but I soon asked her to stop. Even though my mother and I have always been open about my personal life, there were things in that letter I didn't feel like hearing, or having her hear. The letter stopped when Jack lost his job for reasons unrelated to quarantine, and he later wound up in jail. No one has been able to tell me exactly what happened, but based on what I've heard, one night he got into a shouting match with his mother, which escalated into a physical altercation. His dad had to pull him off her until the cops arrived and arrested him. I guess it got bad enough that a neighbor called the police. I never would have expected this from him, especially with his mom. If only he'd fought this hard for me back then, maybe things would have turned out differently. As of now, I'm sitting around with not much to do, but at least I'm not in jail. I hope everyone is staying safe and doing as well as possible during these times. Auf Wiedersehen, Mia. Comment update 4 days later. I had been thinking of calling him while I was here, but his recent troubles have made me rethink it. I have no idea how to call someone currently in jail. If I am motivated enough, I might try. He only mailed the letters to my parents' house in Iowa because he has no clue, other than knowing I'm in Germany, where I am right now. I'm hoping that when this virus situation blows over, I will return to America for a visit in 2 years, and maybe by then, I will feel comfortable enough to see him in person. It's like he had a complete personality change, and that's what mystifies me the most. He went from quiet and reserved to some sort of deviant maniac, and now I wonder if, at some point during our marriage, if it had gone through, he would have laid his hands on me, like he did with his mother. To answer a previous question, I will be 33 in July, and he will also be 33 in October. I have been to a lot of European countries, but Spain has not been one of them. Maybe once I get established here, it will be easier for me to jet over and check it out. Thank you again for your kind words. Stay safe during this current crisis. 8th update 5 days later. I actually spoke to him yesterday on the phone. When I last updated, he had been arrested and thrown in jail for assaulting his mother. I don't know if he's out on bail, if there were no charges, or what, but he has spent the last few days sitting in my parents' front yard, doing nothing but sitting. My dad said he was going to go out there and kick his rear, but my mom, who's definitely the cooler-headed of the two, went out there and calmly told him I was gone and that he should pick up and start his life over too. She called me and told me this, so I decided to call him, which I did last night. He answered and sounded kind of relieved it was me, but also sad. This is the conversation to the best of my memory. Jack, hello. Me, hello. I understand you're out in my parents' front yard. Well, I'm not there, so please leave them alone. Jack, I was hoping that the rumors I heard weren't true, that you were still here and we could talk. Me, I tried talking before, and you just took it as a chance to grab my rear and act as if sex could solve this whole thing. Jack, I'm sorry, I've never broken up before, so I'm not sure how to go about it. Me, I've never broken up before either, but I think I've handled it better. I just gotta know, why? Jack, I have to do what my mother says, and she wasn't happy when she found out you couldn't have children. Me, you're 32. I don't think you have to do what your mother says anymore. Jack, you just don't understand. Me, I do understand. We had discussed the problem before and had come up with solutions that apparently aren't satisfactory to her, so you threw our relationship away. Did it mean that little to you? Jack, you didn't have to go away. When are you coming back? Me, not for a couple of years. Once this whole pandemic thing is over, I can hopefully find a job in my own place to stay. Jack, come back, please. Me, I'm sorry, but you made your choice, Barbie, his mother, or me. I hope the two of you are quite happy together. Throughout all of this, he is crying, and I'm doing my best not to. Jack, please come back. We can get married and adopt or whatever. I'm sorry, we can find a way to work this out. Me, I told you there were always alternatives, but you threw those away along with me. Plus, Barbie's going around calling me defective, and she won't accept us adopting. How does that change? Jack, you're not defective. I'm sorry, but I can't control what she thinks. Me, no, but you support what she thinks. You've known this about me since we were 16. Suddenly it's an issue. Jack, I don't like her calling you defective. In case you hadn't heard, I just spent time in jail for defending you. Me, maybe if you had done that when this all started, I'd still be there. I think that broke him, because he kept quietly whispering sorry over and over and then hung up. I just laid on the bed and quietly cried until Victoria, my friend's oldest child, knocked quietly and told me it was time for dinner. Sorry for the formatting, still trying to get used to how Reddit works. Also, sorry if I came across as a beach in this, but when someone throws away a relationship that goes back to childhood, I can be a bit upset. Hope everyone is staying safe through this whole pandemic thing, and hopefully, when it's all over, I can get on with my life here in Germany. 9th update 3 weeks later. Warning, there is talk of sewer slide in this story, not about me, but someone else hinting at it. So, I moved out of my friend Vanessa's this weekend. Her family was incredibly kind to take me in, but when we first planned this, it was before the virus, and I thought I'd have my own place and a job and everything. My uncle said he would drive down and pick me up, and I felt better taking his offer than continuing to stay there. So, he came down on Saturday, spent the night with some friends of his, and we drove back up to Kulmbach on Sunday. I'm currently staying with him and his wife, typing this out before bed. It's weird being here, given that I was born here and lived my first 9 years here, but even when I visited on vacation in the past, it never felt as strange as it does now. I don't know if it's the deserted feeling of the town or my current personal situation, but it just doesn't feel right. Anyway, that's enough miscellaneous rambling. I'm just trying to avoid typing the real part of this story, if you couldn't tell. Friday night, Jack, my ex, called me. I still have the same phone and account back in Iowa, so when it rang with his distinct ringtone, it caught me by surprise. I picked it up and said, "What do you want?" Which I know was a bit rude, and I apologized to him as soon as he said, "I just wanted to see how you were doing and say hi." So, we proceeded to have a pleasant conversation until I heard screeching and "Is that her?" followed by him saying, "I'm talking, leave me alone." Then she, Barbie, his mother, who started all this, got on and said, "Leave my son alone. Haven't you done enough damage?" To which I simply responded by hanging up. She must have gotten his phone and tried calling me a few more times, none of which I answered. When I checked the voicemails later, she was ranting about how I ruined his life. She said he had lost his job, which we knew was going to happen anyway last year when the owner of his company announced his retirement, and that he was selling off the assets, but he gave 1 year's notice and even helped some employees find work elsewhere. She claimed he had lost his house. We sold our house after our breakup, had been caught drinking in public. Apparently, he bought a few bottles, went near the lake, drank in the park, and got busted by the police. I heard this from another friend earlier, and had attacked her. I've mentioned this before, but I secretly hoped he would have decked her good before his dad intervened. She even got to use her favorite word, defective, saying that if she'd known 16 years ago that I was defective, she would have gotten her son a nice, normal girl to be with. She also mentioned that Jack had talked about sewer slide recently, saying there's no point in going on. I tried calling back, but every time, she picked up the phone and resumed screaming, so I gave up and just wrote him a letter. I sent it to my parents to deliver to his house, figuring Barbie would intercept it if I sent it directly. I told him that I still loved him and wanted him to do well in life and move on, but that it was over between us. So, here I am, 5,000 miles away, civilization shut down, living with my aunt and uncle, and just waiting for the chance to put my life back together. Thanks for reading, and sorry about any formatting errors. I think I'll put my laptop away now and go to sleep.